Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Shred's Takes. It's been about 2 months now since I posted my last episode. Appreciate you guys tuning back in and listening to the program. I'm really excited to have you guys back on and listening to this episode today as we uncover a little stuff going on in Division One college hoops as well as the NBA. And there's a lot of stuff to unpack, obviously, as the college basketball season has gotten deeper into conference play, and just definitely some things to look at. Obviously, there's been some interesting trends going on and teams doing really well this year that people I don't think expected originally to do well. So we have that there, and it's pretty exciting stuff. But also, we're going to talk about a little bit about the NBA as well and why certain players have had certain impacts as well. So it's going to be really exciting. First of all, on another note, another sport, NFL, Tom Brady has retired, and after 22 years, 6 All-Pros, 15 Pro Bowls, 7 championships, and leading the NFL in completions, yards, touchdowns. He was second in QBR this year, an MVP candidate at 44. So first of all, we have to give a hats off to Tom Brady for an incredible career that he had in the NFL and something that can be desired, the TB12 method, right? The ability of him to win games in the clutch. I mean, almost winning this year against the Rams, who are now in the Super Bowl, right? So you have to look at that, and also the fact that he was 44 years old and arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You can argue where he landed. But, I mean, during the regular season, people thought he was the best quarterback in football or around there. And, and again, at the end of the season, people are going to sit there and say he was probably a top 5 quarterback in the NFL this year. And without him there, right, you probably slide Joe Burrow in the top 5, or you slide someone else in there if you have Joe Burrow at 4. But at that point, right, Tom Brady has left a humongous legacy in the NFL. And obviously he's the GOAT, right, the greatest of all time. But I think the fact is he showed exactly what it means to overcome the odds. And if you don't have all the physical gifts as some other quarterbacks do, you can always overcome it with hard work, dedication, supreme intelligence through watching film, and also just, I think, trying to find different ways you can differentiate yourself. With him, it was staying healthy. It was being one step ahead of the defense. So those are all things to look at, too, as we celebrate the career of Tom Brady, right? But shifting over to basketball, we're going to talk about college basketball today. Specifically, we have a few things I want to uncover. Why Auburn has been so good this year and what we can take away from Texas Tech versus Texas as these teams continue to go in the Big 12. Who's more legit, what this means for Chris Beard, why people need to stop panicking if you're a Texas fan, the fact that the Texas lost to Texas Tech on the road. We're also going to talk about the fact of why has Marquette been able to give Villanova a real difficult time this year? What has caused that to be the case? What has Villanova not done well in those matchups compared to other times? So we have those, and then we're also going to talk about Joel Embiid and his impact on the game this year, why he has been by far the MVP candidate, and also what has been the bigger difference, I think, from him this year. So to start off with it, we're going to talk about Auburn, right? Auburn has been number 1 in the country this year for a while. And the way I look at it, pretty simple, right? Auburn has got a lot of things that have really differentiated themselves, I think, from other teams. First of all, look, they have a guy who's going to be a lottery pick in Jabari Smith, a guy who's averaging 15.4 points and 6.5 rebounds, a guy who can stretch the floor, a guy that can face you up and shoot, right? He can handle the ball, right? He can switch, 1 through 4 with you and guard guards, right? And why is that important? Well, you want to have a guy, especially in today's NBA, who's dynamic. And especially in college basketball, too, you're playing against teams like Kentucky, you're playing against teams like LSU, Arkansas, Alabama the other night, right? And people forget, Alabama hasn't done that great in conference yet, but Alabama is incredibly offensively talented. So you need guys that are going to be able to combat that. And Jabari Smith is a guy who can go get his own shot anytime he wants. You can throw it to an elbow ISO. He can face you up and shoot it. He has the ability to pull up and rise over you. I think compared to Ben Caro, he's not as physical or as good going to the basket, but he is an incredible player. And I think if you watch him play, his ability to post up smaller guys and take advantage, his ability to shoot over defenders, his ability to switch and guard multiple positions defensively, which nowadays is so important because if you can't do that as well, it's hard to be effective in the NBA. You can be effective in college because college defenses are really sound, in the NBA, since you can't camp out in the paint like you can in college, you have they have the 3-second rule. You need guys that are going to be able to switch because of how good guys can shoot it now in the NBA, right? And so he has a lot of value in that realm. But another guy who has a lot of value is Walker Kessler, right? That everyone was saying, is this guy really going to be that good? He didn't do a whole lot in North Carolina. And yes, he didn't do a whole lot in North Carolina. I'll be the first one to tell you that he didn't. But he was playing behind Armando Bacot. He was playing behind Sharp as well. Who's on the Brooklyn Nets now. But I think you look at the fact that he's the number one shot blocker in the country. He's excellent in that pick and roll, short roll area where he can just get it and just dunk it. He's really good at rolling to the basket. He's got good hands. He's got pretty decent feet too. The fact that he can be able to finish at a high level around the basket, and I think that's something that's really important going forward. I think because the thing is, especially with what makes them tough to beat, is the fact they have a lot of size in their front court, right? Kessler's 7'1", Jabari Smith's 6'10", right? And then they have three guards who, that they start, and then they bring a guard off the bench who all can be explosive scorers. And I think the thing is, you look at a guy like Kessler, right? What he can bring to the team, and he makes them really hard to beat, just because it's going to be hard to finish over him consistently. Why was it hard for Kentucky to beat Auburn? Was because of Kessler. Because Kessler can rebound at a high level. He's been rebounding really well since he's been in SEC play. He's very good in the pick and roll, right? So you have to worry about the lob threat there and his ability to catch and finish. He can stretch the floor, right? But he's not like a legit post player like Jabari Smith. You're not going to necessarily throw it down to him and tell him to go get a bucket every time. But he's what is needed in a modern day big man, right? Which is being able to roll effectively the basket, catch and finish, catch lobs, rebound, and he can block shots better than anyone else in the country, averaging 4.1 block shots a game. They lead the nation with 8.2 block shots a game. So that makes a big difference. Yes, they're not like Texas or Texas Tech, where their scoring defense isn't as good as those schools, but their ability to score while also being able to make it difficult for you to score, that's what makes Bruce Pearl's team this year very difficult to stop. And I think another thing you got to look at too is right now they are 14-0 at home. 14-0 at home. And they just beat Alabama the other night, 181. They are a very good home court team. Now, that could bode problems in the postseason when you're playing at neutral sites, but they have only lost one game this year. That was at a neutral site double overtime game to Connecticut. So they have been able to go on the road and win games, right?
If you like that clip, subscribe to Shred Takes Podcasts for more content and videos uploaded on this channel.